Most riders are breaking laws they don't even know exist until they get slapped with a fine or worse. But not you. Today, we're exposing 20 secret motorcycle laws hiding in the rulebooks. Laws that could save your license, your wallet, and maybe even your life. First up, a law so petty it almost sounds made up. But yes, you can get fined for this. At number 1, running out of gas is illegal in Youngstown, Ohio. It sounds like a joke, but in Youngstown, Ohio, letting your bike run out of gas on a public road is actually a ticketable offense. The city has a municipal code that treats it as a traffic obstruction, because technically, your stalled bike could slow down traffic or cause a hazard. You're not just stranded, you're now impeding traffic and facing a fine, even if you're just walking to get fuel. And no, a friendly officer isn't going to cut you slack just because it was almost empty when you left. Whether you're on a cruiser or sport bike, running out of gas mid-route is viewed as rider negligence. Here's a tip: make fuel stops part of your pre-ride checklist, especially if you're entering rural zones or areas with spread-out stations. A $50 ticket and a walk of shame isn't how you want to remember your ride. That's the law if you're stopped. Now let's talk about one that gets you in trouble while moving, especially if your front wheel leaves the ground. At number 2, no wheelies allowed in Maine. Got a heavy throttle hand? In Maine, that can cost you real money. Wheelies aren't just frowned upon, they're explicitly illegal under Title 29A, Section 26(2). If any part of your riding behavior involves lifting one or both wheels off the ground, you're in violation. And here's the kicker: it doesn't matter if you're on a back road with no cars in sight. If a trooper sees you pop that front wheel, even by accident, it's enough for a citation. Fines can run up to hundreds, and yes, points go on your license. And if you're thinking you'll fight it in court by saying it was just a little lift, Maine doesn't care. The law doesn't define intent, it defines the behavior. Here's a tip: if you want to practice stunts, go find a private lot or a sanctioned stunt space. On public roads, there's zero tolerance, even for short bursts off the line. You mastered control and kept both wheels down. But now, let's talk about the state where using your horn near a sandwich shop can literally get you fined. At number 3, honking near sandwich shops. After 9 p.m. is illegal in Arkansas. It sounds like a small-town legend, but this law is real and weird. In parts of Arkansas, it's illegal to honk your horn after 9 p.m. near places that sell cold drinks or sandwiches. The rule dates back to public nuisance laws, meant to keep noise down around diners and late-night cafes. If you're riding at night and lay on the horn outside one of these joints, you could technically be cited for disturbing the peace, even if you're just trying to get someone's attention or clear traffic. It's a law rooted in the days of jukeboxes and soda fountains, but it's still on the books. And yes, some officers will enforce it, especially if a neighbor complains. Here's a tip: use your horn only when absolutely necessary, especially in town after dark. Better yet, flash your high beams. It gets the message across without potentially triggering a fine. Late-night honks can cost you in Arkansas, but over in Alabama, there's a law so reckless it feels like a dare, because apparently they had to make this one explicitly illegal. At number 4, riding blindfolded is illegal in Alabama. We shouldn't have to say this, but here we are. In Alabama, it is officially illegal to operate a motorcycle while blindfolded. That's not a joke. It's actually written into state traffic law. Someone, somewhere, at some point, decided it was worth trying, or it happened enough times that lawmakers had to step in and spell it out. This law falls under reckless endangerment and is treated as a public safety threat. If you're caught doing it or attempting a stunt where it applies, expect fines, license suspension, and possibly even criminal charges, depending on how much chaos you cause in the process. Here's the reality: even tinted visors at night can cause visibility issues. Alabama's stance is clear: if your vision is compromised, you're not safe to ride. Period. Here's a tip: check your helmet visor condition regularly. A scratched, fogged, or too dark shield can hurt your vision almost as badly as a blindfold. You're riding with eyes wide open, but in Maryland, it's your mouth that can get you in trouble, even if you're just venting road rage. At number 5, cursing while riding is a misdemeanor in Rockville, Maryland. Frustrated driver cuts you off. You let out a string of profanity from your helmet. Feels justified, right? Well, not in Rockville, Maryland. In this town, swearing audibly from your vehicle, including motorcycles, can land you a misdemeanor. It falls under public profanity laws meant to preserve public peace. And yes, it's still enforceable. Here's the kicker. It doesn't matter if you're yelling at another driver or just venting into the wind. If someone hears you, takes offense, and complains, you could be cited. Not a warning, not a slap on the wrist, a criminal charge. And in a town that size, you'd better believe someone will hear you. Here's a tip. Save the language for your helmet mic or a private vent session post-ride. Keeping your cool isn't just better for your blood pressure. It might keep your record clean. You've mastered the art of silence on the road. But now let's head to Minnesota, where even your tires can make you a criminal if you're not careful. At number 6, dirty tires are a legal offense in Minnetonka, Minnesota. In Minnetonka, Minnesota, there's a law that makes it illegal to operate a vehicle with dirty tires. Not mud flying off everywhere dirty, just plain, visibly dirty. According to the local nuisance code, it's considered a threat to public peace and safety. It may sound ridiculous, but the law is rooted in preserving community cleanliness. When motorcycles or cars leave visible trails of mud or debris on roads or driveways, it's treated the same way as littering or dumping. And while it's not aggressively enforced statewide, Minnetonka PD has reportedly ticketed vehicles during rainy seasons or after off-road events. Here's a tip. If you're riding off pavement or through construction zones, take a minute to spray down your tires before re-entering residential roads. Even a quick rinse could mean the difference between riding free or explaining yourself to a city officer with a printout of the city ordinance. You got the mud off your tires. But next, we're heading into rider training territory, where what you wear during class could get you benched before you ever start the engine. At number 7, students must wear pants in Minnesota motorcycle courses. If you're signing up for a basic rider course in Minnesota, you better show up with your long pants on. Literally. Minnesota state law requires students enrolled in state-approved motorcycle endorsement training to wear protective gear during all riding sessions, including over-the-ankle boots, gloves, long sleeves, and yes, pants. Show up in shorts or sweats. You're not riding that day. It's not just a recommended safety measure. It's written into the rules for motorcycle safety training funded by the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Training schools are legally bound to enforce it. And failure to comply doesn't just boot you from the class. It can delay or even cancel your path to getting licensed. This law stems from decades of crash and injury data showing that even low-speed drops in training environments often lead to burns, scrapes, or worse, especially when riders are wearing improper gear. The pants requirement, simple as it sounds, directly prevents ER visits. Here's a tip. Treat training day like a real ride. If it's not something you'd wear on a highway, don't wear it at a rider course. You've got the right gear, but in Tennessee, there's a law so weird it sounds like a typo. You're allowed to do this, just not to anything you'd ever actually see in the state. At number 8, you can hunt whales from a motorcycle in Tennessee. Seriously. Yes, this is a real law, and no, it doesn't make sense. Tennessee's vehicle code includes a provision that bans hunting from any motorized vehicle. However, there's a bizarre, oddly specific exception: whales. That's right. According to the way the law is written, it's perfectly legal to hunt whales from a motorcycle in a landlocked state with zero coastline. The law, likely copied from a federal or coastal regulation, was added decades ago when states were aligning with larger wildlife protection acts. The whale clause wasn't removed or revised, so it remains buried in the books. Technically valid, completely pointless. Of course, you won't be chasing orcas down I-40 anytime soon, but this law highlights something serious. Wildlife and vehicle laws are often combined into broad legislative packages, and sometimes they don't make logical sense for the state in question. Here's a tip. When you're traveling across state lines, check not just vehicle laws, but local wildlife and recreational ordinances too. Some of them are stricter than you'd expect, especially in rural areas. From legal whale hunts to illegal lane splits, We're now crossing into a state where a controversial move is actually allowed, but still misunderstood by most riders. At number 9, lane splitting is legal in California, but still gets you pulled over. California is the only US state where lane splitting is explicitly legal. Riders are allowed to ride between lanes of stopped or slow-moving cars, especially during heavy traffic. The law recognizes lane splitting as a legitimate maneuver, and the California Highway Patrol, CHP, even published guidelines on how to do it safely. But here's the catch. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's protected from enforcement. If you lane split at unsafe speeds, weave aggressively, or spook drivers, CHP can still pull you over for reckless riding. California law permits the act, not the attitude. The guidelines suggest a speed difference of no more than 10 to 15 mph faster than surrounding traffic, and only up to a max of 50 mph. Go faster than that, you're fair game for a ticket. Here's a tip. Treat lane splitting like a privilege, not a flex. Keep your bars tucked, your movements predictable, and your right thumb hovering over the horn, not the throttle. California gives you freedom between cars, but now let's move to a state where customizing your taillight, even slightly, can make your ride street illegal. At number 10, colored taillights can get you fined in Texas. Think a tinted lens or blue LED strip makes your tail look cooler? In Texas, it can get you pulled over. Under Texas Transportation Code 547.322, all rear lights on motorcycles must emit red light only. That means no blue, green, purple, or smoked-out lenses that distort color visibility. And if you've added any aftermarket lighting that changes your taillight's brightness or hue, you could be hit with a fine, or worse, a fix-it ticket that turns into a full-on inspection headache. The law exists for one reason: visibility. Emergency vehicles use blue and white strobes, so anything resembling that on your bike can cause confusion for other drivers. Law enforcement views non-compliant lighting as a safety hazard and a distraction, especially at night. And don't think a dim red glow under a tinted cover will slide by unnoticed. Troopers will check it if they pull you over for any reason. Here's a tip. If you want custom lighting, keep it limited to underglow or accent lights, away from brake or signal indicators. And check your modifications against your state's vehicle inspection guidelines. Your lighting might be on point, but in Illinois, there's a law that takes no off-roading to an oddly specific level, especially if you like plants. At number 11, riding through tree nurseries is illegal in Illinois. In Illinois, it's not just off-roading that's frowned upon, it's very specific off-roading. The state makes it illegal to ride a motorcycle through tree nurseries, orchards, or cultivated fields unless you have explicit permission. This isn't about protecting property, it's about protecting plants. Damaging seedlings or young crops is a serious offense. Nurseries aren't just rows of trees. They're registered agricultural businesses, and any damage caused by vehicles, even just tire tracks, can be classified under criminal mischief or property damage. Even public land adjacent to nurseries may have posted restrictions. Violators have been fined, especially if their off-road excursions leave ruts, kill saplings, or interfere with irrigation lines. So while it might be tempting to cut through what looks like a quiet open area, if it's full of evenly spaced trees, assume it's protected and stay clear. Here's a tip. Use GPS satellite view before exploring a new trail or shortcut. What looks like wilderness could be active farmland. You're out of the trees. But next up is a state that treats headlights like a daytime requirement, even in perfect weather. At number 12, daytime headlights are mandatory in Connecticut. Even on the sunniest day, if you're riding through Connecticut with your headlights off, you're breaking the law. Connecticut General Statutes Section 14-130 mandates that motorcycles must have their headlights on at all times when operating on public roads. The logic is simple: visibility. Daytime running lights reduce crash risk significantly, especially in intersections where drivers often overlook smaller vehicles. This isn't just a safety suggestion, it's a legal requirement, and officers do check. You can get pulled over in broad daylight if your headlight's off or burnt out. Many newer bikes come with auto-on headlight systems, so you might be covered without even realizing it. But if you're on an older bike with manual light control, you'll need to remember every time you hit the ignition. Here's a tip: do a pre-ride walk-around. Check lights, signals, and especially that headlight. And if your bulb is weak or dim, upgrade to a brighter LED. It improves visibility and reduces the chance of being overlooked in traffic. You're lit up and legal. But in Delaware, staying compliant means keeping your helmet on. No exceptions, no loopholes. Let's break it down. At number 13, helmets are mandatory for all riders in Delaware. No matter how experienced you are, how slow you're going, or how short the ride is, if you're riding in Delaware, the helmet stays on. No exceptions. Delaware has a strict universal helmet law for all motorcycle operators and passengers, regardless of age or experience. While some states relax helmet requirements once a rider is over 21 or has a certain amount of riding time, Delaware doesn't play that game. If you're on a bike, your head better be covered. And this isn't just a formality. Officers will stop you for it. Even if you're just rolling through town or parked without one, that's enough to draw attention and potentially earn you a citation. What's more, the helmet must meet DOT safety standards. That novelty half helmet or old school wubby-boo-boo-doo-poo style lid won't cut it. If it doesn't have a proper DOT sticker, it's not legal. Here's a tip: keep a backup DOT helmet on hand, especially if you often ride with passengers. You don't want to have to cut a ride short because someone forgot their gear. So Delaware makes helmets non-negotiable. But in Virginia, the issue isn't what you wear on your head, it's what you wear on your face that could turn into a legal problem. Let's get into it. At number 14, no disguises or masks while riding in Virginia. In Virginia, wearing a mask or facial disguise while operating a vehicle, including a motorcycle, is illegal under Code Firear 18.2/422. The law was originally designed to combat anonymity during criminal activity, but it extends to riders wearing face-covering gear that conceals identity. That means if you're rocking a tinted visor, balaclava, or even a COVID-style mask that completely obscures your features, you could be violating the statute, especially if you stop in public or interact with law enforcement. Now, there's nuance. If it's freezing outside and you've got gear on for warmth, you're probably fine, as long as it doesn't completely hide your face for the purpose of avoiding recognition. But tinted visors plus a full mask, that's where enforcement happens. Here's a tip: flip up your visor when stopping or interacting with people, especially in town. It instantly de-escalates suspicion and makes it clear you're not hiding anything. You can stay warm and still be legal. But now let's move to a law that's all about control. Because if your hands aren't both on the bars, you're riding into trouble whether you realize it or not. At number 15, both hands on the handlebars, or you're breaking the law. This one's less about state pride and more about basic control. And yes, it's a law in nearly every state, not just one. But a lot of riders don't realize that removing both hands from the handlebars, even briefly, can get you pulled over and fined. Whether you're cracking your knuckles, stretching, or trying to film a selfie while riding, you're technically violating motorcycle operation laws. In states like Florida, California, and New York, the statute reads clearly: the operator shall keep at least one hand on the handlebars at all times. In some jurisdictions, even one-handed riding can be questioned if it seems unsafe or unnecessary. This law exists for a reason. Lose control for even a split second. One pothole, one gust, one squirrel, and now you're reacting late with zero leverage to correct the bike. Plus, it's an easy excuse for law enforcement to stop riders who already look sketchy or aggressive on the road. Here's a tip: if you need to adjust your gear, gloves, or comms, pull over. Looking cool isn't worth losing control or catching a ticket, so now you've got your hands on the bars. But if you're going fast, really fast, California has another law you might want to hear about, especially if you're the dramatic type. At number 16, jumping off your bike. Over 65 mph is illegal in California. It should be common sense, but here we are. California's Vehicle Code Section 231111 makes it illegal to abandon or jump from a vehicle while it's moving, especially at highway speeds. And yes, motorcycles are vehicles. You'd think no one would willingly launch themselves off a bike at 65 mph, but stunt videos and viral nonsense say otherwise. This law exists because yes, some riders have done it on purpose. Whether it's a prank, a failed wheelie, or just straight-up foolishness, the law was written to eliminate ambiguity. If you jump off your moving motorcycle, you're not just at risk of injury, you're risking arrest. In some cases, this isn't just a traffic violation. It can be classified as reckless endangerment or public nuisance, especially if debris, gear, or your own body ends up in a lane of traffic. Here's a tip. Don't just think about your safety. Think about what your body becomes if you're rolling at 70 mph and hit the pavement. Gear won't save you from a stunt like that. You're staying on the bike now. Good. But what about your passenger? Because Massachusetts has a law that bans one very unusual co-rider. Let's talk about that next. At number 17, no gorillas allowed on motorcycles in Massachusetts. You heard that right. Massachusetts has an old, oddly specific law on the books. You cannot ride with a gorilla on a motorcycle. While it sounds like something out of a comedy sketch, this regulation exists, and it's real. Likely a relic from state legislation addressing exotic animal transport back in the day. Of course, this wasn't written because gorilla joyrides were common. It's more likely that lawmakers bundled a bunch of public safety and animal welfare clauses together and dropped this gem in with no one bothering to clean it up since. But here's where it matters. This law highlights a broader truth. Many states restrict what kind of animals or cargo you can carry on a motorcycle. It's not just about safety for the animal. It's about control of the vehicle, distraction risk, and visibility for other drivers. So while you're probably not strapping in a 400-pound silverback anytime soon, even small dogs or pets need to. Here's a tip. If your pet's ride setup blocks your mirrors or movement, even partially, it's not just dangerous, it could be illegal. Riding alone or with a non-ape passenger? Great. But in London, even being parked on your bike can land you in serious trouble if you're doing the wrong thing. At number 18, public indecency laws apply on parked motorcycles in London. This one's outside the US, but too wild not to include. In London, public decency laws extend to motorcycles, even when parked. Engaging in sexual activity on a motorcycle in a public place is considered a criminal offense with real consequences. Why does this matter to you? Because these kinds of public behavior statutes exist everywhere. And while London's version might be the most specific, yes, motorcycles are explicitly mentioned, similar laws apply in states across the US, especially when it comes to parked vehicles in public or visible areas. Police don't care if your engine is off or you thought it was private. If it's on a street, in a lot, or anywhere someone can walk by, you're risking a public indecency charge, and those don't disappear from your record easily. Here's a tip. If you're thinking of making memories on your bike, maybe save it for the garage. What sounds like a spicy idea can turn into court dates and registry headaches real quick. You've kept things clean in public, but next up is a law that'll mess with your ride's soundtrack. In Tennessee, even your earbuds can cross a legal line. At number 19, earphones are illegal while riding in Tennessee. Cranking music in your helmet. In Tennessee, that could land you in hot water because the state prohibits riders from wearing earphones or earbuds in both ears while operating a motorcycle. It falls under Tennessee Code SR 585-8180, which classifies dual ear coverage as a distraction and a safety risk. You can't hear emergency vehicles, traffic warnings, or that angry horn from a car you didn't see. It's a sensory blackout that law enforcement takes seriously, especially on two wheels where reaction time is everything. You're allowed to wear a communication device or a single earpiece for GPS or rider-to-rider talk. But blasting music through dual earbuds or noise-canceling headphones? That's a no-go. Some riders argue that helmet speakers get around the rule, and in many cases, they do. As long as nothing is physically in your ears, helmet-integrated audio systems are often legal. Here's a tip. Check your setup. If you use a Bluetooth helmet or comm system, make sure it's street legal under your local regs, not just comfortable. You've got your ears open, but what about your line of sight? Because Washington State has one last law that makes hauling your furry friend a serious legal risk. At number 20, don't obstruct your view with animals in Washington. Washington state law is very clear. If you're transporting an animal on your motorcycle, it cannot obstruct your vision or interfere with your control of the bike. That means no pets on your lap, no paws on your tank, and absolutely nothing dangling over your shoulder. Riders sometimes carry small dogs or cats in slings, backpacks, or even, believe it or not, loose in the seat area. While it might look cute on Instagram, it's a ticket waiting to happen. Not only does it violate rider visibility laws, but it also opens the door to reckless driving or negligence charges if anything goes wrong. The Washington State Patrol emphasizes one rule above all: your pet must be secured in a carrier or harness specifically designed for motorcycle use and positioned in a way that doesn't block your field of view or restrict your movement. Here's a tip: invest in a pet carrier built for motorcycles, one that mounts to the tank or tail and straps in tightly. Your furry buddy deserves safety, and so do you. If this helped you out, hit like and subscribe. Next up, we're breaking down common motorcycle mods that can get you pulled over. Watch it before you wrench. If you learned something new, give this video a like and hit subscribe. Ride smart, ride safe.